Unseen for generations. A dyad in the force.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video with DYAD in the Force. We are joined by two very special guests who are going to talk to us about Rebel Scum Con. Choco, who are they?
Yeah, normally you introduce me and then I bring them in. All right. Anyways, no, this is going to be a fantastic conversation because we're all Star Wars fans. We're all loved going to conventions, and so this time we get to hear about the nuts and bolts and behind the scenes. So today we have on. Well, I'll have you guys go one at a time. You can, introduce yourselves and give us any relevant information.
All right, yeah. I'm Dante. I'm the marketing guy for Rebel Scum Con. Usually people don't want to hear from me, but apparently it's been very positive as of lately, so that's good. Good to hear. I've been a Star Wars fan since, I would say probably episode one in general. Like I'm a '90s kid, so obviously that's the answer almost for every '90s kid.
I'm Bobby, and I am the host of Rebel Scum Con and the host of RebelScum.com, which is how I became the host of Rebel Scum Con because, when my partners and I, or rather my partner Joshua and I, purchased RebelScum.com from Philip Wise, one of the first things we discussed was starting some kind of Rebel Scum Con, so to speak, which is now Rebel Scum Con. In the near future, and well, here we are, and now we're doing all kinds of fun things in front of physical people, including our virtual fans around the world.
How many cons has there been so far?
This will be the second one.
It's interesting and relevant because we also held our first con, so to speak, last year. It was, I mean, we called it the DYAD Con, but it was essentially just a meetup. Like the idea was, we met our mutuals all the time during cons, and there would always be this large con looming over us, and we wouldn't have time to spend with each other and hang out, and everyone would just have panels to go to, and just, their schedules would be jam-packed. And so we wanted to do a DYAD Con, which was essentially the tagline, the con that's not a con, and just have everybody in the same space just to hang out and be Star Wars fans. We had like park days to go to Disneyland, and we did Star Wars night, but otherwise everything was just up in the air, and we were all hanging out. So it's fun here to talk to you guys about the beginnings, or the second of the Rebel Scum Con. I did have a follow-up for Dante, though. So you're a 90s kid. Does that mean you started on episode 1? That was your entry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, technically, I was introduced to the OT stuff, but, as a 90s kid, the graphics weren't all that, I was a dumb kid, right? So it's like, it wasn't that cool to me, right? So then when you see episode 1, it just blows your socks off. You're like, whoa, everything, obviously, the prequels ended up being, some of the best Star Wars, well, I would say the best Star Wars we ever got. So, I'll always be a prequel guy at heart, and I don't know. I always like joking about OT a little bit, just because I know some of the, just for a lot of the banter online. I know there's a lot of OT purists and things of that sort, so I always like to troll them a little bit. So, yeah.
Well, you're muted.
Just to actually get to know you guys a little bit more.
Yeah.
So now we know where you came into the fandom. What I want to hear from both of you guys. There's going to be 2 parts. If you need time to think about it, that's perfectly okay. But top 3 Star Wars projects, right?
Oh.
So it doesn't have to just be movies. We can do games. We can do comics. We can do books. Whatever. Top 3 Star Wars projects, and then the next thing is I want you to pitch me a Star Wars project. Like if you had the green light. Tell them to make anything you want. What are you telling me?
Top 3 Star Wars projects. Number 1 is Revenge of the Sith. I'm also a prequel guy. I love all Star Wars. I genuinely and truly love all Star Wars.
How was it this time around?
Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he still turned to the dark side, but it wasn't different this time. But but it was just as magnificent as I remembered, and
Beautiful.
I cried a little bit watching it again. I cried a little bit as soon as the thump at the very beginning of the Battle of Coruscant.
Oh yeah.
And just like a little, like a little tear of excitement, and then it's just like I can't believe I'm sitting here in a movie theater watching Revenge of the Sith again. Which real quick, we got beef. We got beef movie theaters around the world because we got showings for The Phantom Menace twice for anniversaries. We got showings for Revenge of the Sith on the 20th, and multiple times Attack of the Clones has been skipped, and I don't appreciate that as a prequel fan. I'm just like, I know it's not everybody's favorite, but
maybe on that
I like
25th
how-
year, kind of
I like how
some respect on
Dante,
Attack
as
of
a
the Clones
marketing
fans.
guy, he was like, I get it. I see that.
It's like half and half. It's like I get it, but then that 25th year is gonna slap though. Everyone's gonna be like, yes, it is gonna get like so much like
It better.
it's gonna get so much of the
better.
praise that it probably should have gotten. Because I'm gonna be honest,
Probably.
I'm like an episode. I ain't gonna lie. I'm like I don't think episode 2 is that amazing, but
It's
like
not.
but I appreciate the points that we do get, specifically. But like I always hate that I have to divulge that information because I am a prequels guy. But I'm always like, yeah, if I could skip one out of them, it'd be number 2. But
Nah,
it always hurts to say, but I get it,
Number two. It's got going for it.
But I
Camino-
love the moments in it though.
Camino. the space chase between Django and Obi-Wan, Geonosis, like everything on Geonosis.
Yeah.
It's and who likes sand? Genuinely, who likes sand? Everybody who
It
rags
does
on
get
that
everywhere.
line, who
You're
actually
right.
likes sand?
There's certain
The
moments.
Tuskens seem to really like it. I don't know, man.
I guess there are certain moments if like you're on a nice white beach, white water beach, and
Sure.
you're barefoot and you're just kind of squeezing the sand between your toes. I'm like getting all profound and stuff.
Oh no! I was like, I'm like, because my brain goes, where the white beach is at, and I'm like, no, never mind. Don't.
Okay, so we were at top 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Revenge of the Sith is number one. The Mandalorian is number 2. First, because it's super super cool and it's a great adventure. Din Djarin is a fantastic and very honorable character, which I really really like. But the other reason why I rank The Mandalorian at number 2 is how it kind of brought the fandom all back together again when it came back. When Mando first dropped, there was almost no discourse for like a brief moment in the Star Wars fandom, and it was just like this beautiful moment where we all just were enthralled in how much we loved Star Wars again, and how much there was like this huge wave and influx of just new fans
Yeah.
as a result as well. So for that
Baby Yoda,
reason
man.
is why The Mandalorian is so high up on my list as one of my favorite projects, just because of what it did for the fandom and for what we witnessed in fan love at year 1 of Rebel Scum Con, because a large majority of our cast, our guests, were the Mandalorian cast members in some form or fashion. Some of them had been veterans going all the way back to season 1 of The Mandalorian, whether that was Brendan Wayne or Misty Rosas or Chris Bartlett, or whether that was somebody who debuted in season 2 or picked up some shots in season 3 as a background trooper. For example, Paul Darnell was with us on year 1, and he played so many characters, and not just The Mandalorian, but many of the other Disney Plus series as well,
But the
including
men-
Ahsoka.
And the women too. Sorry.
I mean, if it was a masked character in some form or fashion, odds are Paul Darnell was behind it in one of those series.
Yeah. Was he two Mandos or just one? I forgot.
One for
No,
sure.
he was one Mando. He was a Shriekhawk
Actually,
Mando.
technically 2, because he was one of the Shriekhawk Mandos in season
He was
3,
like the assassin.
and he was one of the Imperial Super
Oh,
Mando Commandos.
And he ended up being
well.
Merrick in the live action. So it's like, that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. Like,
Yeah, Marok.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very
Yep.
nice.
Yeah, Paul is a super cool dude. And then my third favorite project is Rogue One, because Rogue One is that link for me between the quality, not necessarily quality, but the prequel era and the original trilogy in terms of the movies themselves. It just feels like that best in between piece, and it just has some of my favorite things from both, which I really really like. Plus, director Krennic is a fantastic villain,
Great.
and
Yeah.
so happy to have him back in season 2 of Andor. No spoilers, but if you haven't seen Krennic in season 2 of Andor, as it turns out, spiders aren't the only interesting thing on Gorman.
He's just chewing up the scenes in the best way possible.
so
I
good.
love him. I love him.
Yeah, he's great.
I like that
And
you bring
then-
that up because Rogue One is sort of like the theming and the grittiness of the originals, and like the epic, sweeping cinematographies of the prequels. So it is a really good in between.
Yeah, and I mean, not that I ever like stopped loving Star Wars at any point in my life, but there was a period where it wasn't like at the forefront, and Rogue One is what like violently yanked me back into Star Wars. I mean, Force Awakens, I loved it. It's awesome movie, but I don't know. I can't describe why or how Rogue One flipped the switch back on as deeply as it did, but I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a good question for Dante to answer as well, because I think it was the switch for me was The Last Jedi. Like I had always, I
like
had
that one
always
too.
been a lore guy, and I've always
Yes.
just silently being like in my Bible, just writing things, and
Yeah.
then like, you know, it was The Last Jedi discourse that brought me out of it and truly, returned me to a more, for lack of a better word, effervescent voice within the community. And I started making more content afterwards because I had to, fight against the more toxic voices that were.
And thank you for doing
present.
that, by the way.
Yeah. I think the worst thing about, and so many people just didn't realize it, the worst thing about the backlash for The Last Jedi is it was literally made to order for the fans. Like, it was practically like almost exactly what the fans asked for right after episode 7 came out. Because when episode 7 came out, what did they complain about? It's too similar to A New Hope, felt too nice. Everybody felt super nice and like good at the end. It was all pats
Preach.
on the back. Yeah, we're
Preach.
super happy and everything. And people complained about that seriously. And Disney listened, because what did they say? They said we wanted something dark, we wanted something serious, we
Yep.
wanted something dramatic, and
Yep.
we wanted something completely different.
Yeah.
And they delivered on every single one of those
There's
requests
another thing that they
with The
asked
Last
for.
Jedi.
There's another thing they asked for. They asked for George Lucas. And The Last Jedi is 9/10 the bones of George Lucas's treatment of Luke Skywalker. And that's
No one likes to
that's
say that part out loud.
It's the revisionist
Yeah.
history that a lot of people in the toxic side of the fandom like to talk about. First of all, a lot of their
George
discourse,
is gonna make him worse. Actually, George, like him to.
Hey, don't get me started. I
Kurtz from Apocalypse Now.
told Bobby this.
That's the one. That's the
Yep.
that's the one. The 10th that I'm that I'm not including in there. But the reason we had to start fighting back so much is because the discourse that I think that was the turning point of the discourse in Star Wars, where it started to become less and less about the contents of the movie and more about the politics surrounding it. We would always get opinions from Witwer, opinions from Hamill, weaponized to hate The Last Jedi when they were just giving their opinions about the direction of their character. And it's like, well, what about the movie itself? It's like, well, I didn't like Luke, being all like sad and grumpy. Like, well, I mean, that's a valid opinion, but at the same time, you have to watch the movie.
Yeah.
to know
He kind of
that-
went through some stuff, just a little
Yeah.
bit, you know, just a little bit.
and he didn't
A lot
end
can
it.
happen in 30 years.
Yeah.
He didn't end it sad and grumpy, which is
Right.
which is why it resonated with me, because during that time, and I'll just make this short because it's all about you guys, but
No.
during that time, I was broken too. You know, I was failing in my career, and I had nowhere to go. And then, like, I watched The Last Jedi, and Luke was kind of the same way. And they were able to give him a complete arc. They were able to make him the one that reignited the spark of the Resistance, and he did it the most Jedi way possible by not raising a finger or shedding any blood.
Yep.
And I was like, that is so Jedi. And that gave me the courage to, you know, come back into the fray and kind of, you know, stand up again.
I even like
That's
how
awesome.
he put it in the dialogue of, "What did you expect me to do? Rush in there with my laser sword?" And
Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that that point is so often missed, especially like with the original trilogy, when you look at Palpatine, and he is the epitome of evil, whereas Luke, you know, is supposed to be the epitome of good as his old man, right? And Palpatine has mastered the Force on his side of things. He doesn't use a lightsaber. He doesn't. Not at all. And on the other side of things, when Luke is a Grand Master, essentially, we see him with no lightsaber. And I really liked seeing that poetry, because like George Lucas says, Star Wars is like poetry, it rhymes. And I feel like that was such a cool and deep detail that just got overlooked because of the noise. And it's one I wanted to just bring attention to since we were talking about it. Also,
I like that.
talking about moving scenes in a movie, I don't know how you can't be moved or just really take in the wisdom of Yoda's scene when he's just telling Luke, look, failure is part of learning, and you're always going to fail, no matter how old or experienced you are. And that's when it finally clicked for Luke, and we got to see him become the Luke we remembered again, but a better version of himself, because he can force project across the galaxy now, which is crazy and cool.
One of the things I find the most funny about kind of the discourse surrounding it, and I guess there's two things I want to bring up. I get myself in trouble because people think, oh, you will just defend the Jedi no matter what, which is not true. The Jedi failed in their charge in the Clone Wars,
multiple
right?
times.
They were definitely imperfect, but my thing is, like, blame them for things they actually did wrong. You know, people so often are like, it's Yoda's fault because Yoda saw the corruption in the Senate and didn't do anything. And I'm like, what the hell do you want him to do? Do you want him to get involved in politics? You want him to unseat senators and stuff? Like, the people vote for that stuff, right? That's not his job.
Right.
And I loved The Last Jedi because he talks about the failures of the Jedi, right? He acknowledges the failures of the Jedi, and what he does in the end, right, when they send out this call and no one comes, he does what a Jedi is supposed to do. The Jedi is not supposed to fight the war for you. The Jedi is supposed to inspire the people to stand up and do the thing. The Jedi don't fix the problems of the galaxy. They don't. That's not their job. Their job is to protect the people. And so when you get to the end of Rise of Skywalker, when they call, everyone comes, right? You have all those little kids that were inspired by Luke Skywalker and all that stuff. And you're like, that's the point. The point is the inspiration. The point is to serve as a beacon of, you know, where we're supposed to be. And then that...
No one talks about Dooku enough. Dooku is the example of the Jedi that chose to get involved to deal with the corruption.
And he becomes part of the corruption.
Yeah.
The other thing that always makes me chuckle is, like, around the same time Into the Spider-Verse came out. Fantastic movie. It's the same movie as The Last Jedi.
It's actually kind of crazy when you think about it. Wow.
Think about Peter B. Parker.
Yeah.
His journey. What he went through.
Huh.
Think about Miles Morales. I
wanna
didn't see
rewatch this now.
Training. I didn't see him train to do Spider-Man. It's a leap of faith. It's the same goddamn movie, but people rave about that one. Like it's crazy. It's crazy to me.
Not my Peter.
But
What a great reason to rewatch that movie, by the way. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, not just one though. I have to to watch them back to back, and I'm just deciding which one do I watch first though.
If you have two monitors, put one on each one, and then try to Tron yourself.
And then play Dark Side of the Moon as well.
But then I'll do it on 175 speed too. I just go super crazy with it.
Bobby, what's your project?
So my pitch for a project is for a side of Star Wars I have never seen before, and it's the side of the Clone Wars. What's that?
Krennic's butt. Sorry, that's a side you haven't seen before.
Well, he wears a
cape.
Well, no, yeah, you're right. He does wear the cape. Dang.
Jesus, turn out the lights.
I'm sorry.
It's true. It's true. Oh man. So it's a side of Star Wars that we've never seen before, and it's the perspective of the Clone Wars from the Separatist side, because we know the Separatists as a group as a whole did have legitimate reasons from seceding from the Galactic Republic, as there was lots of corruption within the Senate. Unfortunately, a lot of the corruption seceded with the Separatists, but we know there are parts of the galaxy, we know there are planets where the Separatists, where the droids were looked upon as heroes or as defenders, much like we saw some of that from the clones' perspective, from the Republic's perspective. And one of the cool things that we're getting from Andor, just to call back to that, is we're getting a lot of the Imperial perspective, or at least a lot more of the Imperial perspective, and a lot more of the Imperial livelihood, so to speak, than we had previously. And that's just a side of Star Wars I've wanted to see as a Roger obsessed individual, in a world filled with pretty much nothing but clone trooper glazing content. And not that I don't love the clones, it's just
for context,
let's get something else.
Yeah, for context, look to Bobby's left. They're, literally all
dang Bobby.
droids. Yeah. Yeah, and he customizes them, so that
I am.
It's actually not shocking to hear that.
Justice for Admiral Trench, right?
What's that?
Justice for Admiral Trench.
Justice for Admiral Trench.
No, he's a cool character. I wanted more of him. He's just he's a spider pirate,
maybe
that's actually
maybe
a really
good
good
Tales of the Separatists
Mr.
or something.
Bones.
Then yeah, we could do that too. I mean,
and that could be about the admirals.
It's an interesting angle to approach it too, because I feel like whenever we talk about people's misunderstanding of the war and painting the Jedi in a bad light, I feel like people misunderstand how much Palpatine manipulated everything. So it would be interesting to see the perspective of the Separatists and the CIS being manipulated by Palpatine to sort of take advantage of their grievances. Because on one side, he's he's the Sidious, he's the guy in the robe talking to the leaders of the CIS, and he's like, yeah, this is terrible. They're treating you poorly. You should fight for your rights. And then as the chancellor leading the Senate, he's like, these separatists will not control us, and he's leading the opposition on both sides. So I want people to definitely see that side, the separatists' perspective, and how they're being manipulated as well, and just see how much Palpatine has his claws in everything. You could have one person be like, well, why don't we just I don't know why I did that accent, but it's
No,
like
I
you
like-
have like a separatist coming, like, why don't we just like do a ceasefire and agree on this thing, right? And then they do that, and then Palpatine's like, oh, I don't like this, like just sabotage everything. That's all he does.
We saw a little bit of that in the Clone Wars when they did try to do arcs like that. There was the arc
heroes on both
where I want to say it was Mina Bonteri and Padme trying to create essentially a ceasefire into the war, and because there were senators on both sides who did, and then Palpatine had Grievous send in infiltrator droids that convert into explosives, and then they blew up the power generators for the Senate building, and then the Separatists took credit for the attack, which pretty much ended all of the peace talks.
Yeah.
And just before that,
great arc.
I think Palpatine was talking to either Dooku or, yeah, I think Dooku to order Grievous to take care of it too.
Also, with that perspective, people don't realize how dark Dooku truly was because he's fancy. They're like, he wasn't really a Sith. He was just
He's an
like,
aristocrat.
no, he
Diet Sith.
just wears a sick cape. Like he was full
Yeah.
on.
He's an aristocrat. He's highborn money because he's from Sereno, and which is also why he has a palace there. And somehow Dooku was able to keep the ties or get back to the ties of his family roots, despite being a Jedi raised and trained by Yoda.
Yeah, I mean, we get that story in Dooku Jedi Lost. If you
Mhm.
haven't read it, highly recommend checking that out. But Dante, let's see what you got.
Oh man.
What's your top
So
three
my-
first?
Yeah, my
Yeah,
top three.
projects.
I want to go
Your answer has
actually
to be better than mine, though.
well a little bit different because Bobby, a lot of ours might intersect in general. So I'm gonna do like
That's okay.
most impactful, top three impactful for me, like just with I don't know, maybe life in general, right? Clone Wars is number one for me, just because it was kind of interesting for me. Where it's like, I think I was like 16 or 17. Or what year was that actually? No, maybe not. I'm not that old. I'm like 30.
It came out in
Clone Wars came out in
2008.
2009.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, not that old. But I remember
Definitely.
watching it through being like tween, teen to adult kind of thing, right? And it was the only constant for me, for a lot of childhood stuff that I had. So that was actually pretty big for me, because a lot of things was different, but Star Wars was kind of always there, and Clone Wars specifically was always there. And obviously, I'm a prequels guy, so I'd say that's number one for me. Number two, I would say, I don't know. I kind of don't want to go recency bias, but I feel like the Acolyte was pretty big for me, like impactful wise. Along with The Last Jedi, it kind of really opened my eyes to just like calling weird stuff out, I guess you could say, of like, you're not really complaining about Star Wars. You're just something further down there that you're really complaining about, right?
Right. Something else.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't the quote unquote politics within Acolyte. It was the quote unquote politics surrounding the production of Acolyte
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
the discourse.
Exactly.
And
And Bobby, you and I
unfortunately,
talk about that a
it was
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
we talk about that a lot, like
Yeah.
off camera. I don't know. I thought it was weird to me when I was like, the show was fine. Like, yeah, there was some stuff that was weird,
good
but
Star
that's always Star Wars, right? Nothing's like a master. Well, I guess Andor maybe, but nothing's really like
Not at
a
first.
masterpiece. Yeah, yeah.
Not at
I mean,
first. People
yeah.
were. I
Well,
remember
me
people were
included.
hating on Andor when it first
well,
came out.
okay, not hating, but
Saying
I
it was
did.
too
I did just binge it.
slow, saying season
Yeah.
one
Not
was
when it
just, like,
came out for
had the
me.
worst pacing. I remember a lot of complaints as season one was airing about the pacing,
Yeah.
and
I
now it's a
complained when it was
masterpiece.
announced.
Yeah,
was like,
That's-
Oh,
who
yeah.
asked for this? Who wanted this?
I wasn't
Right, I
excited
remember hearing
about
that
it
too.
either.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. I was the
Yep.
same way. I actually
was
just
me.
recently
I wanted
binged it. Because I was first like that. I was like, we know his demise. Who cares? Whatever. But I
Yep.
wasn't like negative about it. I was just like, I'll catch it when I catch it, kind of thing. And then I tried to watch it, and I was like, TikTok brains in my head. All right, there's 5 episodes of build up. I know the payoff's gonna be great, but do I want to watch this week to week? I don't know.
I did.
And then knowing that season 2 wasn't going to be right away. I did the same thing with Dune too, which I still haven't watched. But I was like, I heard the first one was just all build up for the second one. Cool. Let me just wait till the second one comes out and I can binge them both at the same time. Just more like instant gratification, I think, more than TikTok brain for me. So I'm glad I watched it when I did. A lot of stuff very relevant, around the world today. Not just America's, some people would think the world is nowadays, but a lot of just things across the world that it's very relevant in, and especially keeping it with a lot of that stuff. I appreciate a lot of it, and it being in Star Wars is actually very interesting too, because Lucas really with a lot of the Star Wars stuff, it was a lot of off of history, right? So it's very interesting to see it again rear its head, and then it'd be weird for different people on the internet who probably aren't really watching it for Star Wars, but watching it maybe to complain. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's my soapbox a little bit there, but
Well, that's good. It's good. It's good soapbox.
I think the great thing they did with Andor was, as Choco says, well, me included, I wasn't excited about a show about Andor because I was like, well, I'm not really invested in this character.
Yeah.
But the great thing they did about the show is that they made the show around, they built a show around Andor. And the most interesting pieces of the show is the things that happen around him. Like Diego Luna and Andor is great. But we're also getting a lot of great stuff with Krennic, with Dedra, with Cyril, with Bix, with Luthen, and Mon Mothma. We're seeing all of this surrounding material that is where Andor happens to be, and it's all great material, and
especially like Cyril lately. Like Cyril, again, no spoilers, but Cyril in season 2, my man, I'm like,
I'm
Cyril
certainly
figure
envious. I'm certainly envious when the lights are out.
I like him a lot more when he's not wearing the stupid tie. I hate that thing.
I like him
conveyor
now
belt.
that he's getting to do the things that he wants to do. Like he's involved.
He's such a simp,
excited.
man. He's such an Empire simp, and it's so funny because it's like.
Well, Choco finally got on the bandwagon. I think it had to do with the lights.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I got on the Dedra bandwagon.
Yeah.
But
You recognize her game now. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
I think for me it was the dinner.
I was unfamiliar.
Yeah, unfamiliar.
I'm sure the dinner was part of it as well.
I was cheering during the dinner scene. Like I shouted out loud when they cut to the apartment first in the first episode. I was like, "No way, they did it!" Like, yes! Like I was hoping for that. And then like cuz they're both so awkward, but there's got to be, somebody for somebody out there, right? And especially in a galaxy far, far away. So like
Man, the stalker vibes worked,
Right,
sometimes you gotta.
them find each other.
I'm kidding.
I just think it's so nice.
For legal reasons, we don't condone stalking.
We do not at all.
I mean,
I thought that was a weird message to send, though. It was kind of like, all right, well, he's kind of stalking her a little bit, but I get it.
But I think that might be part of it because I don't think she views him as a person. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Well,
I think
she did say she grew up in a Kinderblock, so
Yeah.
she probably doesn't even view herself as a person.
That's true. But I just
She was a kid raised in the Empire, where she was taught that four solid walls and whatever meal they hand you is good enough, and that's contentment, and that's where the unfortunate part for those two characters lies, is like you're happy for them at first because they find each other, and then it's just like, oh, but the kind of people that they are at the same time, it's like it's a double-edged sword. Like you're happy for them, but you're like, at the same time.
Yeah, I think they're able to
Cyril
commiserate
redemption
based
arc.
on.
I'm into it.
I think they're able to commiserate based on like her history with the Kinderblock, but I also think that the way she talks to him not as an equal most of the time.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dom versus Sub.
Yes.
I think he's like the one kid on the Kinderblock that she can confide in, but also like is not a shot caller, so just heal.
He's not a threat to her at all.
Yes.
I think that.
Right.
Yes.
Real quick, this is kind of out of left field, but Dante, you mentioned the acolyte.
Yeah.
And I noticed you kind of have some chimera hair.
Yeah. Well, hey,
that-
I guess this will. I'm actually half Filipino, so he's a very big like. When I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, Filipino in Star Wars. I was very excited about that. My other side is Mexican, so I get Diego Luna too. So, but I grew up with
Oh,
my
so you're
Filipino
full
side.
Filipino.
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
that's
pretty much.
that's
Yeah, pretty. Yeah, exactly. Right. I grew up on my Filipino side, so it really feels like that. But yeah, and Mexicans to Asia, right? Or yeah, that's how it
Hmm.
goes. And vice versa, right? So, um, yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm going for. It's kind of funny. I actually met him at a con in Dallas, and I asked him, I was like, "How do you do your hair?" And he's like, "No one's ever asked me that." He gave me the whole formula, and I wrote it down. I was like furiously writing it down. I was like, "Bro, next time we might be hair twins or something like that." So,
all
um,
right, well,
yeah,
it's working. It's
yeah,
working.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I used to have like a man bun. I'm like, I think this would be like my it's got to be around 10 because I had a faux hawk in high school, had a buzz before that, and I kind of did like the shaved hair on the side, and then man bun, and then yeah, we'll see. Bobby has seen at least 4 of the evolutions of my hair. So
I have.
I've had a
Yeah,
mohawk where it's like super buzzed on the side before.
I
Very
remember that one.
interesting. Yeah, I've had
Choco has seen the
yeah
evolution of mine. I think what Manny has done for us is
yeah
uh, given us something to to aspire to and to cosplay to, because
yes
this hairstyle started as like a homage to Omega. But then when we saw biceps in
yes
the acolyte with the wet hair, I was like, I can actually just wet this and just shake my head and be the stranger. So, and then we
yeah
both have like
yep
similar facial hair
yeah.
too. So
I texted Bobby that when it was finally unveiled that it was him. Of course, it was him, right? Like,
Right.
mhm.
but it's funny to speculate. I think I really like the Acolyte too because I would go into a lot of these like week by week viewings of just discussions and obviously the ones that weren't toxic I wasn't in, but the ones that were very just talk about the show. Like,
Mhm.
hey, this was great and speculation. I don't think I've had that much fun speculating about Star Wars in a
Yeah,
very long time, right? Because it's
absolutely.
literally an open book outside of hey, they probably don't live past episode 1, right?
Yep.
Um, or unless they find Tantalor and they're just hanging out there, right? So,
Well,
it's
plus, like,
kinda-
for the people who are like, oh man, these characters died throughout the show. These characters have been dead.
yeah,
They've been long dead since before we got introduced to them into the timeline. Like, why are we getting upset when they die in which episode of the show they die
hey,
in?
well, don't
When
get
we
upset.
because
can
we're
see
still
them in
reading the
other,
High Republic and they might still be alive.
we could see other
Yeah,
flashback, like
yeah,
because there was
that's
also other
true.
flashback scenes and stuff too. So it's not like
Yeah.
we never saw that character again if they died.
Listen, Jackie, she went out
Still
kind
hurts
of
me.
hard,
Ugh,
you know,
yeah,
Oh man,
best girl,
Ugh.
like
best
an
girl for
Assassin's
sure.
That was
Creed
rough.
assassinate. Like,
That was rough. The way she got taken out.
The whole
She didn't
punch.
deserve
the
that.
Ugh.
the fact that she was used as a curtain for Darth Biceps' sexy like reveal is like it's so weird. You know, she drops it. He's just like smoldering behind her. You're like, damn, I don't know how to feel, man.
You brought her here.
Yeah.
Hit him with that blue steel.
Yeah.
and that was another
Yeah,
that was another thing about the acolyte too. The discourse was just completely horrible. When someone would say it was badly written, and you ask them for examples, they would point to fire in space, they would point to lesbian witches, they would point to ruining Anakin's origin, and you realize that all those things point to the fact that you do not know what bad writing is.
I have a great answer for that. To speak to the point of good writing, because it doesn't in any way, I don't think, cheapens Anakin's creation.
Not at
What
all.
it does is
Not at all.
it gives us the context of how Plagueis and Sheev came up with the ritual to create Palpatine in the first place. Because we knew Palpatine and we knew Plagueis was not just amassing Sith or Jedi knowledge alone when they were exploring the Force and amassing their own skill and power. And part of that amassing skill and power is by absorbing or even conquering other Force worshipping or Force practicing cultures and uh, rituals. And the witches in this case is just another example of one of the few Force using cultures that got wiped out. One of many that got wiped out by the time of our proper timeline Star Wars. And there's other like cool little sprinkled in ruins and things that we've gotten to see throughout other points in the Star Wars timeline, like the Zepho, for example, and seeing all their cool ruins, and the Rakatans, and the fact that the Rakatan Empire is once again canon. And now, for those of you who missed it, they were mentioned in Season 1 of Andor multiple times. So yes, the Rakatan Empire from Knights of the Old Republic is still canon. The High Republic did not replace Knights of the Old Republic as an era, for all the fans who, for some reason, have that
also
irritating misconception.
They're thousands of years
They're also
apart.
thousands of years apart, and that's the other
sense,
like
right.
mind-numbing frustration when the fans were like, "Oh, they replaced it." No, they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. It's still
That's
there.
like thinking
it's just
the Cowboys replaced like ancient Greece. You're like,
But
that's
the reason
I don't even know.
the reason I point that out in terms of them not knowing bad writing is because they didn't comprehend it. Right?
And
they
that
got
too.
that talking point from a grifting YouTuber who is a tourist that doesn't know the lore, but their complaint is based on a mistake, because the show never said he was created that they were created by the Force. The show suggested that Anastasia used the Virgins on Brendok to create the twins, and
Right.
like you said, that is a direct callback to Plagueis' manipulation of the midichlorians, and is completely different from Anakin's origin. Anakin was literally created by the Force through no action of anyone but the Force.
Yeah, in response to Plagueis and Palpatine.
That's never truly confirmed.
That was Plagueis' speculation.
Mm-hmm.
That he threw out.
I hope we do get it confirmed.
Yes, you're technically right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
They were talking about
How funny
at
about
least
that.
in the Plagueis book. They were talking about
Which isn't canon.
9 years old. You know, they're. I think it was Palpatine, right? Palpatine was thinking about when Anakin was born and when they were doing the experiments, and then he was like, "Could it be?" But that was like the extent of, kind of like the speculation on that front.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously it's not knowing lore, but maybe it's like, because the way I feel about just kind of discourse today, there's just a lot of emotion that goes into stuff, and then once you're, I think I had this interesting conversation with someone who didn't like Acolyte on X, but it was actually like kind of refreshing.
I should clarify. Like we don't care if you don't know the lore.
Oh
But the discourse, when you start your criticism,
Right.
Yeah.
they
If
broke
you're gonna-
lore.
Of course, yeah.
Right. If you're
You
going to
should
stand
know.
on the basis that
Yeah.
that they did break lore, but they
Yeah.
did because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even kind of alluding to that. I just was kind of, I wanted to kind of go to like the emotion part of it, because it's more of like a defense thing, which was weird to me. And in that X Twitter, whatever it's called, man, I'm just call it Twitter. I'm never gonna call it X,
Twix.
right? Right. The person divulged to me is just like, hey, this just isn't the Star Wars I grew up with, so I'm naturally going to, and naturally going to reject it, even if it is good. You know, it's kind of like a defense thing. Even though it could be debatable, it's better than the Star Wars you had, the 3 movies you had, and the books that were all mostly very contradicting. But
Or the
I thought that
stark
was interesting to
reality
hear.
that nothing is ever going to be the Star Wars you grew up with, because
Yeah,
Right. It's always.
in the
I mean,
past.
it should be different, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
you'd hope so, or it dies. The fandom dies, right?
yeah.
That's what I'm most scared of right now. Is like, I think Skeleton Crew is interesting.
Yes,
I actually
Skeleton
really
Crew.
loved it, but there's still no nostalgia for these newer kids, right? It's gonna be sad. Like eventually, it's like kids 10 years from now. What was your Star Wars? Oh, it was a bunch of old Star Wars built upon, right? There wasn't like anything like new or ish, right? There was maybe like Resistance, because what this is the 10th anniversary, episode 7, right? So
Yes, it is.
I mean,
10th anniversary of
everything
7,
builds
20th
off
of
something.
Revenge.
There's not anything new for like this newer bunch, and I get scared of that. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I get scared of that. Of like what's going to be her Star Wars kind of thing, right?
Well, that's
Well, you know what?
That's the good
That's-
thing about Star Wars.
Like,
so.
there's
Yeah.
we have the like the Young Jedi Adventures, which
And she
they
watches that
can
like
watch that.
no other. Yeah. Yep. Love that.
But there's
Team
also
Nubs.
going to be all these kids that I'm jealous of intensely because little kids, they go to Disneyland and they can see Rey. They can
Mhm.
hang out in Star Wars. Their first experience in Star Wars is literally in Star Wars for some of these kids, which is crazy
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
Or through toys. Like, I feel like I don't think that's anything to worry about because I've talked to so many people. Like, how you got into Star Wars is one of my favorite questions to ask people because it really does change how you feel. And one of the ones that I thought was strange, but I shouldn't be surprised. I know so many people that their Star Wars was the Lego video game was
Oh,
Lego.
that's
Star Wars.
fun. That's a fun
And
way to be introduced.
They were
Wow.
a kid. They got this game and they
Hmm.
play it, and they call Captain Panaka Captain Pancakes, all of them,
Huh.
because
That's
they were
awesome.
too little to know what his name was.
Huh.
How about that?
But that's the
Yeah, I've never
Yeah, I
heard that
don't
before.
think
That's
there's gonna be-
awesome.
I've
though.
never either. Like,
Yeah, that's
I-
great.
and that's the
Makes
power
sense.
of Star Wars. When
Yeah.
when George Lucas originally said this was a generational story, it truly is, and it is these fans, these new fans that come in through various points of entry, whether their first Star Wars was Mandalorian, or their first Star Wars was Andor, or Rebels, or Bad Batch,
or Resistance.
or Resistance. These are the fans that are keeping Star Wars alive.
Hmm.
And this
Yeah.
is why Disney likes to play fast and loose with properties that will introduce people to Star Wars, but also then give us the Kenobi, right? Because
Yeah.
you want to have a Star Wars that'll touch on people's nostalgia, but then you want a Star Wars that can completely catch someone off guard that's not
Yeah.
a Star Wars fan and be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
so this is Star Wars," and then they go back and they watch any number of different projects, or they read the books and comics, and after over 40 years, it's still alive. And this is what I mean when I say Disney saved Star Wars. It's not
Yeah.
because Disney has
agree.
done everything perfect and all of what Disney does is better than what George did. No, it's that Disney
Yeah.
kept it alive by releasing new things for new fans to appreciate and come into Star Wars. And now every decade moving forward, we'll have a new generation of kids to grow up and keep Star Wars alive.
Yeah.
And that's what Disney did,
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Dante, what's your pitch?
Oh, hold on, wait. Let me do my third one. I didn't get through my third one because we did Acolyte. My third most impactful Star Wars project, I'd say the video game series, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. That's exactly what I wanted. Like,
Bobby's getting ready to
Why are you
Bobby-
getting- I'm like, why are you
no,
getting
hold on,
angry?
wait.
Like,
No,
you're
hold on,
good.
wait. Hold on, wait.
He
No,
hasn't
no, no,
Jedi
dropped
series
the
is
hammer
great.
yet.
It's because of this. It's because of this. It's what I thought Force Unleashed was. And then I replayed it. Especially the second one.
No.
And then
that's an interesting mix-up.
No, that's
No, that's very true. It's
they're similar, kind
Yeah.
of. In
I have the
gameplay.
nostalgia
it's like
of-
a more,
yeah.
It's a more grounded story of like what Force Unleashed was.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's similar in gameplay. It's similar in what the character is trying to do, except he's coming from the light side of the Force, not from the dark side of the Force as a foundation. But yeah, no, you're not necessarily making the wrong mental connections here. They are similar.
Well, I don't want to be like this big like nostalgia hater kind of guy
No,
either, because I
Force
know I
Unleashed
just
is
went from nostalgia because I love the original stuff. I want there to be, even for me, like I'm always open for anything as long as it's as long as it makes sense, right? In which I would say everything we've gotten so far makes sense. So
It's-
I'm open to it all, and
Right.
like Jedi Survivor, I think that broke me because that was the first year. What month did I know it was 2023, but
it was
my
September,
daughter.
I want to say.
Oh yeah, my daughter. She was almost a year at that point. And what like Bode did. It's always funny when like dads go way too far to protect their family.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I get it, but it's I know this is the hyperbole of you'll do anything to protect your family, but oh my gosh, it sucks. And just crying. I was like, oh my gosh, this sucks. And then I'm like, oh no, Katsa, what's gonna happen to her? And that's my pitch, by the way. So it's a great segue. I don't know what's gonna happen. I feel like I'm gonna do um, a time jump in the next game. Kind of maybe is like teenager, maybe, or maybe like tween, maybe like little Leia age or something of that sort. But I just want like what the heck they're doing like immediately after that game. Like,
Yeah.
what do they do with Tanalor? How does it look? Because I really feel like we're getting a time jump. I don't know why I feel like that. Um,
Well, we got a time jump
but yeah.
with this last one.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like it's going to be a longer time jump. Because it's very comfortable, right? It's like, hey, no one could find this. I mean, eventually someone's going to find them, obviously, or not, because I don't. I mean, they can make it fit into the lore kind of thing. It's like, oh, well, we bombed it and it's done. Like, so, it's very easy to take it out of lore in general, right? Like, I don't know how they would do it, but they'll figure out a way and it'll be great. But that was like, okay, I'm an adult. I replayed Force Unleashed. It was great. Nostalgia. The gameplay wasn't all that. Story was great. But then I played the Jedi series, and it was just great for me. But yeah, that's my pitch for the Star Wars story. I don't know, because I don't like, with me, I don't like theorizing. I mean, not theorizing. Like, I guess theorizing. Like, I wish I had this, because then I've seen people in our
Take
fandom.
that too far, yeah.
It's
they
not
make it
this, so
horribly
it's
different.
terrible.
Now you're mad
Yeah,
'cause
and
you
then they
didn't
crack
get
it
that.
when it's
It
something
should
else.
have been this because I thought it was my headcanon, so I don't like to have a lot of headcanon. But if it were up to me, I just want what the heck? What is Cal doing? What is Cal doing directly after the game? He gets a very strong loss, and he seems very charged up about it. I guess in like a spiritual way, maybe.
How does he
Um,
come down from that?
yeah, exactly. Like, what's the next steps? Is he mopey for a little bit, or does Marin pull him out? Does Marin have to leave right away? What is
Mary
Marin
turns out the
doing?
lights.
Exactly. What? Right. I mean, probably a few times, right? Turns out the
Plus,
fire at that point, right? But
plus, Cal has
yeah.
has played around with the dark side a little bit.
Yes, that too. Yeah,
He's dating a night sister. Is that gonna
yeah,
be a struggle for him? Is he gonna
yeah.
lose him?
There's so many different
Ahsoka
angles
that?
it could
Yeah, there's
go.
a lot
Yeah,
you can go through with
and
that.
I'm
But
just thirsty for it.
I like that you brought up Bode too, because and like how far a father will go for their family.
They just lose the plot, right? I mean, we saw it episode 3 just came out. It just came out in theaters, re-released again. It's like that's another like I'll do anything to protect my family, and then loses the plot, kind of thing. So, it is very interesting in all
Yeah,
of that.
it's a lesson. It's a lesson in why the Jedi teach what they teach, right? And it's always been a struggle to get people to understand why there is no emotion does not necessarily mean no emotion. The Jedi Code was always a framework for how you connect to the Force, but it exists because their experience with the world and the Force is amplified. So when it comes to like a regular Joe Schmo on the street, obviously like emotions are just gonna do whatever they do to him. But if you're a Force user, emotions can literally mean genocide on one side, or peace with your son, and overthrowing the Galactic Emperor on another side, right? Those emotions, like whenever you read the High Republic, if you have read the High Republic, some of the books, they're dealing with some of the most benign emotions, but it sends them down such a deep hole. And it's something that we like to reiterate time and time again whenever people get too raucous around no attachment, and how the Jedi were so wrong to teach that. And of course there's flawed interpretations of that, and we get people who are like, oh no, you must be tranquil as the forest at all times. But we get examples of what no attachment means when Ahsoka leaves the Order, when Yoda is able to just go into exile. And yeah, I mean, both another cautionary tale, like the emotions that spurred him into action is it made him fall to the dark side. So that's why we have to be cautious about
Yeah.
the emotions.
And I think that's to your point of things that a lot of fans often miss is when arguing about how the Jedi should be portrayed in a project, whether that's Acolyte, whether that's the prequels, whether that's the original trilogy, whatever piece of Star Wars you're looking at, the Jedi's role for that balance, for that peace, for that order is one where they're always striving to achieve it, but they themselves aren't maybe necessarily there yet, save for characters like Yoda, but not at every point when we see him, because we do see Yoda in points of internal turmoil or outer turmoil as well, where he himself is struggling with his own balance. For example, when we see him fighting the Emperor, his emotions do come into that fight. He does get angry. You see it. I mean, how could you not? It's
when he's
it's
about to win the fight, you can see it.
Right. Well, and then as they separate, then like he's in his shame, and then he's just like pouty for the rest of the movie when he's with Bale. So, we even Yoda falls short of what it is to be perfect or the perfect Jedi, because, I mean, there is no such thing, right? You can't.
Yeah.
And the Acolyte also had a good kind of cautionary tale too, with Soul and Osha.
Yeah.
If you judge this on the very metric of a normal person, you know, he wants to save her, he wants to give her a good life, and those are all noble causes. But again, he is at the mercy of how much the Force affects his emotions and how much his emotions are going to drive his actions, and on top of Torben's impulsive judgment calls. And I hate it when people kind of like minimize Torben to like, oh, he just wanted to go home. Like, there's so much more in that's playing out in that head that's causing the impulses.
Right. Why did he want to go home?
Yeah. And
it wasn't just, hey, I want to go home, guys, because I missed my bet on Coruscant. It was other things going on.
This is not the adventure that I was promised, that I think I deserve. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there.
This is not where I should be as my role as a Jedi, wandering through the woods on some random planet.
Yeah.
And so what does Soul do in the effort to save Osha and to provide for her the life that he feels she needs? Murders her mother, right? And so this is why emotions have to be controlled, lest they control you. This is Jedi teaching me all we talk about all the time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's exactly right. And it's one of the interesting things that I think the Acolyte and Last Jedi did well, that I feel like they get flack for, because they didn't use the automatic storytelling trope, right? And 90% of just general stories, the hero has to go outside of the law, or they break the rules in order to save the person or to do the right thing. And that was the correct choice, and that's what they're expecting. But like in both of those films, you know, you have Poe Dameron, who's it's like, no, we're still gonna go for it because we're gonna take this ship down. That's the most important. He was going against the orders. You know, it's the hot shot, and that was the wrong thing to do. That's not what they needed in that moment. Soul, great intentions, you know. Mm-hmm. That was against the rule. They reached out to the Jedi, and the Jedi were like, no, don't do that. Leave them alone. You leave them alone because they're not doing anything. They haven't hurt you. They haven't been a danger to anyone. And you're like, yep. That's actually a pretty, you know, I feel like
they portray the Jedi
like,
as
the Jedi are just, they're just going to kidnap the kids or whatever. But no, the Jedi were like, no, leave them alone. They're fine. They're okay. Leave them alone.
That's why there's so many like apology tours for Indara. It's like, oh, we misunderstood.
I loved that though. When the show started, you're like, Indara, I hate her. Like, I know this is her fault, and you're like, oh,
right. What did girl do? What did she do? Yeah, she was the voice of reason the whole time.
Right.
The two things that I would really love to see is, A, give me an animated show in between episodes 8 and 9.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Well, we
please.
kind of got part of that, but more of
Yeah.
that.
So like Resistance, which I enjoy, especially the second season.
Cut off too
But
soon.
that was
It's like an animated Andor. It's like about the people, but not the Jedi, which is great. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
But I want the problem that the sequels had. Well, for me, one of the things is that our big three didn't get together until the
Yeah.
final movie. So
Yeah.
I want something where we see their resistance missions throughout that
Oh,
year. We see
okay.
That would be cool.
You know, like
Like-
that's
Or maybe
something that
why
I
they
want.
couldn't be together. Like make that a little bit more cemented
How they-
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
How they
'Cause-
found the base that they had on episode 9, some to lead up
Yeah,
to some
and
of the
I mean,
bickering they were
some of
having in
that-
between.
Some of that's covered in the book Resistance Reborn by Rebecca Roundhorse. Great book,
Yeah.
if you haven't read it. But I think that'd be interesting to see. So I'd want that, or give me a book that is the sequel trilogy, but from Kylo Ren's perspective.
Ooh.
Oh.
So we're not seeing what the rebels are doing there. We're seeing what's going. We're in Ben's head,
Yeah.
with his struggles and all this stuff, with how he's feeling about this girl that he's suddenly connected with. Like he felt
Yeah.
a connection with her before. Again, in between 8 and 9, there's a whole year where he's running the First Order, and he's running them into the ground because he sucks at it. There's a whole Eye of Webbish Bog, a weird baby head spider legs things on a giant. Like there's so much cool stuff that we didn't get. But
Well, the spider bog thing is still canon. It's on Mustafar.
yes, absolutely.
They did bring that in.
I just want what more. I love when Star Wars gets weird.
Yeah.
No, that sounds super cool, actually. Like a story, just that story from the perspective of Kylo, or even really just any of the moments in the trilogy, just solely from the perspective of him. I think would just, I think that would be really, really cool. I'm also a big Kylo fan.
Yes, as we should be.
I want a show about the path with Quinlan Voss in it.
That would be cool.
That would be fun.
I
I'm
hope they touch
eternally
on Darth
Quinlan Voss
Disciple a little.
watch, so I mean, whatever show they announce, like, how does Quinlan connect to this? With the tales of the underworld, it's like Quinlan can.
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah.
He can.
Yeah.
And he should.
Yeah.
I'm hoping there's some kind of Dark Disciple tie-in with Tales of the Underworld specifically.
I heard there was. Yeah.
We got a couple more days. All right.
Fortnite tomorrow, actually. Fortnite tomorrow. We got
that's
one more
true.
day. So.
That's true.
And
Oh, yeah.
if you want to see people flossing in front of the screen, go for it. But
I just don't want to play Fortnite.
I don't want to play Fortnite, nor do I want to have to sit in a Fortnite lobby where people are probably gonna have their mics on and stuff. Yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait.
I don't know if you could private lobby it. That'd be kind of cool, actually. Just have all like-minded people just watch it together. Just have a little watch party. That'd be fun.
That
Probably.
actually would be cool. I wish we had a thought of that about that
Now-
and planned it beforehand.
Now, if it was in Roblox, then come talk to me.
My nephews
Oh, no.
are all in on Roblox. It's funny.
Oh no.
Nice.
But not Minecraft, because it would just be blocky. You wouldn't be able to tell what was going on.
I do want to know what about the announcements that we got out of Celebration Japan? Did you guys latch on to? What are you guys interested and excited about?
We're both very biased, so.
Oh yeah, we were gonna say Maul just because Maul as a character in of himself is just one of the coolest and most interesting villains in Star Wars, especially with what they gave us from Clone Wars going forward when they reintroduced the character, because so many people when he was coming back were like, what, how he got cut in half. He was the first, Order 66 survivor before Order 66 survivors were cool. And then the way that Dave fleshed out the character and interwove him into the background, into the shadow, crime-ridden parts of the Clone War itself, and just the amount of depth that Sam brought to that character that nobody ever thought possible before for a character like Maul, who, when he was first introduced, was a weapon,
It was a
borderline
trolling
just
character.
simply an animal pointed in a direction to kill Jedi, and that's what he was meant to be at first. Well, or at least so we
But that's
thought at
not
the
what he
time
wanted to
of
be. That's the
right
craziest part about all of it.
of
Like,
'99.
yeah.
Yeah, and then to see him get discarded the way he did, and then essentially become a rival power to Palpatine so quickly, to where Palpatine had to step in and directly deal with him himself, and it's just so cool. And to see him get his own show, to see another one of those gaps that we've been missing finally get disclosed, is very exciting, because watching him just go off in the Venator at the finale of season 7 against the clones, completely unarmed, was just
Cinema.
so great. And seeing what he's going to be doing, as close to immediately after that as possible, before we see him again in Solo, is very exciting to me. But I also want to see the window of post Solo and Malachor in season 2 of Rebels, because he falls again somewhere between there. Because at the end of Solo, he's still obviously in charge of the Shadow Collective, in charge of all this crime organization. But by the time of Rebels, it seems like he's lost it all.
The old master, yeah.
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 And it sounds like your microphone might be going out a little bit, at least for me. But
Sorry about that.
Real quick, for Bob, why, if it wasn't very obvious of why we'd be very biased, we have Sam Witwer is coming to Rebel ScumCon in August.
Yes.
So we're very excited about that. We didn't even get I talk daily to the booker almost.
Yeah, we had no
probably.
idea.
Yeah, no idea, no
idea.
tip or anything of that
Nothing.
sort of like.
Not a wink,
what's
not
happening.
a hey,
He's
it's
like-
a good thing you booked him
Right.
now. Nothing,
Right.
nothing like that.
Nothing. Yeah.
Just cool.
It-
He signed, and yeah, he'll be there.
We were excited even before, like super excited even before that, and then even like it was like what 2 a.m. over here, and it happened. I was like dozing off. I was like, oh crap, where's the trailer at? Going on Twitter, like, who took it? Who's in Japan right now? They can send it to me. Things of that sort. But
Yeah, I gotta see it. I gotta see it.
yeah, it's that made it even like 20 times more exciting for us because we get to see him and. I mean, he won't slip up. He won't slip up, but
He had
You
some
won't
spicy
see- no,
details
but
too
he'll-
on
He'll
stage.
probably have some
Yeah.
good takes.
Yeah,
he-
we might even get to see some pre Order 66 stuff because when he was on the main stage on Star Wars Live, he was talking about why doesn't Maul give up Palpatine, because he knows everything. He knows he's the Sith Lord. He knows all of his plans. Why doesn't he give him up? And he teased that there is story there. But then he was like, "Oh, I'm saying too much." So it's an interesting story to kind of speculate on, because he's right. Like, what happens in between, leading up to him reaching out to Ahsoka and being like, "All right, now I can tell you what's actually going on." Anakin's his new apprentice, and he's this is all his fault. Like, so definitely a lot of story there.
Also, at some point, he trains Kira in Teras Kasi, and she ends up kicking him out of his own organization. So,
Yep.
It also implies that we might learn more about what's going on in Mandalore, and then also we're gonna get some more underworld stuff. Get me Prince Seizure, like doing stuff, but
Who is
just
canon?
not.
Zizor's
He is
still
canon. Please, just not the inappropriate stuff that he does, because
Yeah.
he's kind of problematic. But
Is the pheromone stuff canon?
it's not touched on directly in anything, not that I've seen. But
What they might have touched. No, I think they touched on it in the Afro comic when they recanonized him, because like he's name dropped in the Afro comics, which was when he was like first brought back into official canon a few years back, and it was because she was in the process of stealing something off of another Black Sun member.
yeah,
And I want to say
And he's
she
like,
was
"I-
doing some
you
kind
wouldn't
of
like this
thing
or
with
whatever."
sprays and pheromones too,
Hmm.
if I remember right. That was also around the time when Dirge resurfaced in canon.
yeah, that was a. Was that the Afro comic, or was that the Crimson Reign series? I mean, there was they all crossed over. I'm sure
It
was probably
was-
but
Actually, it was in, I think, the lead up. Yeah, because Dirge debuted in the lead up to Crimson
So
Reign.
was it
Uh,
Bounty Hunters then?
it might have been during Bounty Hunter War, or like the start or the prelude to Bounty Hunter War, because it was right
The
before
comics are
Han
convoluted.
Solo
So.
option.
Yes.
It was
So-
right before the Han Solo
So I
option.
wait till the end.
So you guys have Sam Witwer coming, which is super
Yes.
awesome. I mean, that's so exciting. Is there anyone else who's super excited that's coming to Rebel Scum Con?
I'll say one that's like not like for me when I got a chance to finally like tell the world. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. So that's why I'm gonna go for it. Michelle Ang, as
Oh,
Omega.
awesome! Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was telling Booker, I was like, that's a headliner right there. She doesn't really come to America, and she deserves her flowers, kind of thing. She didn't get as much. I mean, maybe, but I wouldn't say as much as the weird hate is kind of like Ahsoka kind of got at the beginning, which is kind of funny where she's at nowadays, own show and all that fun stuff, and one of the most beloved characters now. Um, but I've seen a lot of interviews with her. She's like, "Oh yeah, I just didn't keep up with the discourse until the final season," and then it was like, someone's like, "Did people really hate Omega? Like what's going on with that kind of thing?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you poor soul." So, I don't know. I just hear she's really pleasant, and I mean, we had Ahmed Best last year. I love getting these like actors
Yeah.
that are just deserve their flowers in a positive space. That's what we really try and do with some of these like off the wall kind of like guest appearances and things of that sort. So that was a very fun one for me to write a bio for and know about for a little bit. And I will tease we might have someone that will be coming with her, which I'm not sure when this episode comes out, but it might be announced by the time it comes out, or it might not. So
It'll
think
be
Bad
it'll
Batch.
be in a couple of days.
Okay, Bad Batch, Omega. That's all I could say. So.
Okay.
Dante, on Wee's here.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, we already announced her, but yeah.
I mean, we do want to give you guys the platform to talk about everything that you have going on with Rebel Scum Con. So if you guys, when is Rebel Scum Con happening? The dates? Where is it? Where can people find more information on Rebel Scum Con?
Rebel Scum Con is happening August 8th through the 10th, 2025 at the Frisco Conference Center. And to find any information you would like to know about it, you can go directly to the website Rebel Scum Conventions with an S at the end.com. That's Rebel Scum Conventions.com. And right there from the homepage, it'll take you to guests. It'll even take you to our alumni, because we will be showing off guests who attended Rebel Scum's past going forward. And year one, we had 44 unique Star Wars celebrity guests in attendance.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Year,
Insane. It was insane to keep up
and
with.
year two, I think we're around 30 right now so far, and that
Yeah.
includes actors as well as artists, official
Lucasfilm,
Lucasfilm artists.
Whether they're current or
And-
former. Yeah.
And that also includes, some of the behind the scenes guys, whether they were foundational, like, I don't know, Roger Christian, for example. He only invented the original lightsaber prop, as well as many other things.
Some of the
in
coolest
Star
aesthetic
Wars.
inside of a spaceship too, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone dies for Millennium Falcon stuff. Like, how do I make it look like the inside of that, kind of thing.
And then we also have legends from the toy side of things as our guests, like Jim Swearingen. So, I mean, we're trying to cover with not only our events and our activities and our panels and the vendor room at Rebel Scum Con, a little bit of everything for every Star Wars fan out there, but even amongst the guests as well, there's a little bit of something for everybody out there. And once again, all that information is found on Rebel Scum Conventions with us, or you can follow us practically anywhere and everywhere on social media you can think of.
Instagram's very poppin', though, I will say that, and very happy every time Bobby does this. He's total pro at it. What a goat! It's just one less thing I have to worry about. So thank you again, Bobby. It's always music to my ears.
Awesome stuff. So you guys in your second year now, what are some of the challenges that you've faced, and what are some of the, I suppose, highlights of starting your own con and kind of going forward into the second year?
Man, I never realized how hard it is to market something that has no content around it because it's the first con ever, and I didn't want to be the guy who took content from other cons that are doing certain things because we're trying to do things, we're trying to take a little from here, a little bit from there when it comes to like, hey, we've been to these like throughout the whole ownership group. I'm not even an ownership group. I'm just the guy who handles the marketing. It's really like we've had like 30, I think combined at least 30 years of just going to cons in general between the four of us. So it's like we like this, we don't like that, kind of thing. But I didn't want to do that with the content, and that was probably the hardest thing of like, how do you like hype this up without having any like true like we call it UGC in marketing world of user generated content, right? So that was like the hardest part. But now year two, I got a ton of it, like from year one, right? So it's like perfect. Yeah, I can show you guys exactly. I see. I wasn't just like this guy screaming to the void of like, this is gonna be awesome, blah, 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 a lot of a lot of influencers we've had come through. Maybe not like some of the biggest ones, but they were very instrumental for us and like telling how they enjoyed it because we didn't pay anybody for their opinion or anything like that. And we still don't. Still don't do that. It's just, hey, this was like exactly what I wanted in a con. Basically, is what we got a lot. Is like super chill. It was very organized. It was the stuff that we wanted to do as con goers, right? Even the panels. I think we had. I was counting them. We almost had like close to 50 panels last year. So that was crazy.
Really, that
yeah.
many?
Yeah, it was like 47, dude. I was like, oh my
Oh,
gosh.
dude, I didn't realize. No
Yeah, I was
wonder
like-
it took us so long to get through all that.
Yeah. I was like counting. I was like, there's no way. I
Like-
counted like 3 different times, and it's like between like 45, 42, and 47. 'Cause I keep
Josh
losing
would
count.
ask me like, do we have all the content up? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, we're still finding stuff.
Yeah, we're done now. I mean,
Oh, we are? Okay.
Yeah, all the panels are on YouTube, but
Okay.
which is a fun part too of just like making sure those are documented and up. I mean, it took a while, but that's fine as long as it's up, right?
Some unfortunately, like, and we feel, well, not bad, but like, we feel for the panelists who didn't get to see their panel up ASAP because,
Yeah.
like we said, we had 47 panels, a lot of content to get through, and also, I mean, we also got all that content up within a year, which is cool because that was at the end of June is when it happened. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we had so many, and it wasn't just things like, myself talking to Ahmed Best or Kevin Lyle talking to one of our other awesome guests, whether it was
Like the OT gang that
Brendan
we had.
Wayne or
That too,
the
yeah.
OT panel that we had, which was also very, very cool. We also had panels that were hosted by various content creators, influencers, people who I never ever even met until
Yep.
Rebel ScumCon day one. We're
Yep.
hosting our panels, just because when we started it, one of the other things, which wasn't a challenge and still isn't a challenge, thank the Force, is influencers who want to be involved, a community that wants to have fun and celebrate Star Wars, and that's part of what made Rebel ScumCon so great, was so many community members who just showed up and heard what we said we were going to do.
Yep.
And had a good time and participated, and all of those people are excited for year two and are going to be even more involved on this one. We're going to have we're going to be doubling up on some of our panel hosts. I'm going to be hosting significantly less panels this year. And that's not because I don't want to. That's because we have lots of awesome talent that wants to contribute.
Yep. It's all about the voices, right? Voices of the community.
Yeah.
Yep.
And talking about challenges, actually on year two, going from year one, that's one of my biggest challenges is, where am I going to put all of our talent for our events and our panels and stuff?
Sure.
Because we don't have a shortage of that. We have a shortage of scheduled time and space at this point for all of these fun and exciting things that we're planning. And
I feel like that's on the flip side. That's actually think it's a slight blessing in disguise, because last year it might have been like, okay, cool, like I had to do so many panels, but now you have that luxury of being like, I could just chill, I could maybe enjoy the con this time because Bobby he was done. Like
I'm sure he's not chilling.
No, I wasn't chilling at any
all.
point during year one.
No,
it was
no.
I would. Get
I was
up
with you at
around,
night
like,
2, right? Night 2 we went out together, and you were done. And this was night
I was
2 of
I
4.
was like I didn't people I was probably so unrecognizable to so many people on night 2, especially because like
Yep.
I was just so fried. Like I didn't even feel like a person after the end of the weekend. I was just so like spread thin and worn out by the end of it all, just because of all the setup and tear down, plus everything going on during the event, all the fun stuff, and it's just like
that no one talks about. It's like
just by the end of it, you're just like you just feel so hollow. Not because it was bad, but it was a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, I've worked behind the scenes for San Diego Comic-Con for.
Oh, nice. Oh God.
I did not the last 2 years, but like the 3 or 4 years preceding that.
Yeah.
And I'm helping out, but and helping to direct like the day labor, like the 1 day people who come to help.
Yeah.
But man, and the people who are putting it on, like, usually it's a blessing because usually they don't get to see anything, like they are.
Yeah.
That week for them is just nonstop, and so that's cool that you get to host sometime. I'm sure hosting panels is like the only time you actually get to sit down and stuff like
the
that.
time.
But that's awesome. It sounds like so. We have all these influencers coming, and there's all the people who are your panels that they're all over the place. Is there any other fun events or things like that you want to talk about? You guys rocking any karaoke, any cosplay contests, anything like that?
Yes, yes, and in a way.
Well, wait, when is this coming out again?
Yes, for the second one for sure. There's definitely going to be cosplay events and contests going on during the event. We had cosplay contests at year 1, and had some absolutely fantastic cosplays. Some really, really killer ones. I almost said Darth Akon.
I would love to see that. Nobody wanna see you.
I got the force. Yeah, it'd just be so great. No, gosh, now I'm gonna be stuck trying to figure out that guy's name from the Old Republic. It's just gone now. I can't find his name. The one of the twins from
Archon.
Archon. Thank you. Yes, that guy. I was close.
Okay.
I was just missing the R.
Actually,
their third brother that everybody forgot, Akon. He's out in space on a boat. There was a really cool killer Archon cosplay. There was a really good Balin Skull cosplay.
Oh yeah.
Balin Skull was one of my favorite cosplays. I think that's the Brodalorian.
I think so too. Yeah.
But then we also had the 501st, and we had the Rebel Legion. We had Mando Mercs.
Yeah.
We even had Mandalore the Uniter out as a guest.
Oh,
We didn't bring him out as a guest for the show itself. BYO Lightsaber did. Gary Ripper did, and it was very, very cool. I unfortunately did not get to talk to him much because, like, when he was in his area, I was either in a panel or running somewhere else for some other reason. So unfortunately, I didn't even get to see the guy. So there were things even I got to miss out on at my own convention on year 1, and there's definitely things I'm gonna miss out on year 2.
Hopefully
but
not as much.
It's still gonna be a blast.
They said, hey, like, enjoy the con for at least an hour a day, and then even if it's not a day, it's like every other day, like depending how long it is, kind of thing. So just to like kind of take in everything that you've done this hard work for. It's like, because literally after con 1 and the first con, and like figuring out, hey, are we doing a second one? It was like go ever since then. Like even myself, because I came in what, like 2-3 months before we were supposed to start, and this year I was like, y'all, what are we doing? Like, doing this again? Cool. All right, let's do it. We have the building blocks here, and we did so many things right, which is the great part. And now it's just kind of building upon, uh, what we really envision per se when it comes to just the greater vision of what we enjoy in conventions in general. So, yeah, that's one thing, Bobby. I will put maybe 30 minutes, maybe not an hour, but maybe 30 minutes.
Yeah,
We'll just peruse something.
I think we can all relate. I as a game developer, I've gone to GDC and E3 as an exhibitor for many years, and it's not running a con, but like you have
Yeah.
a booth and you're seeing
Yep.
all these awesome games that you want to check out. And you're like, but I gotta stay here and freaking promote
Right.
my shit. And Choco's gonna tell you it was Teletubbies, but those years I was I was promoting a Bill and Ted game that never came out, which sucks about a startup. So I know a lot of preparation goes into this stuff, a lot of planning too, and we're also planning our own panel in terms of it's called Balance in the Force, because there's a lot of people that just really misunderstand this subject. So if you guys do go on to a year 3, we would love to do a panel for you guys in that regard, because listen, I have a feeling that because we're gonna open up the panel by asking how many of you think Balance in the Force is equal parts Jedi and equal parts Sith, and I have a feeling there's going to be at least one hand raised. It's there's a lot of really wildly misunderstood concepts in Star Wars, but this one really takes the cake. I don't know how many times Choco's had to talk about it, but I've had to talk about Balance in the Force at least like 20 times a year.
But it's also kind of special because that was our first interaction together.
Yes.
Mm.
And it was also like a journey into canon, right? Because we were discussing our own interpretation of it.
And then they directly
canonized
put our
it.
interpretation in a book, like almost word for word.
That's gotta feel good.
It does.
It does.
It does.
I mean, we're
You'd be
also
surprised how much they watch the community, and they
I'm not.
know us.
I'm not
and they-
surprised. I know they watch the community very closely. A lot closer than a lot of community members realize or are willing to acknowledge. They watch a lot closer than you realize. I guarantee they're watching right now. I love it.
Well, we're just about out of time. I want to give you guys the final word on anything Rebel Scum Con. Is there anything else you guys want to plug about what you guys have going on with the convention this year? Any new special guests that you haven't announced, or anything new in terms of activities? Anything you want, the floor is yours. Just talk about what you guys got going on.
Yeah, check out Instagram. That's our highest performing platform from the marketing side. I can tell you that. But yeah, a lot of stuff going on between Friday to Monday, I would say. As long as nothing in the next 12 hours goes wrong with those contracts, which now is just really just signing stuff at this point. But we're enlisting some. This has been the great part about what I do is like I've been saying, like the voices of Star Wars and the community are the big thing for me, and we could easily just post it ourselves and cool, like whatever. But like,
There's
we'll
something I can talk about.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we want just other people to be just as excited about it, especially very like-minded individuals who want to enjoy Star Wars and maybe have that open mind of things that come in. And even if you don't, like, just don't talk about it 7 months later, with maybe 10 videos. But but yeah, that's been a very exciting part. I think she was on here actually. I'm talking to one right now. No, it's Katarina. She's
Hey,
helping
shut
us
up.
out. Yeah, Kati. We're talking to her. She was actually supposed to help us out with Michelle Ang for Bad Batch. So I guess that's my breadcrumb there. So there's another Bad Batch related in that aspect. So very happy about that. And one is also another female creator too. She's pretty. I would say she's very big in the Star Wars community itself. So that's another one that we should be announcing between now and then. So a lot of announcements in general, a lot of new faces you'll see intersect with us too. So and maybe some cool things happening with saying that Bobby. Now it's like, oh, wait, how far do I skirt? Now,
Oh.
how far do I?
Well, here's where I could
I'm usually the one that's like, hey, don't do anything, but
Here's the chocolate box. It's lifting a little bit.
right.
I would say, because another part of like what we're doing too, that might be a little bit different from some other things is the game room. That's not a big surprise, but maybe some things you could see in the game room might be a little bit different. Who might be involved, things of that sort, the things you might see in there. So when I say game room, I'm not talking about video games, more the tabletop games, RPG, of Star Wars in general. So yeah, there's a lot of things there, and maybe some karaoke too. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's the most readiest of crumb I could spread there
Okay.
on that end. But yeah, Bobby.
I'm into it.
I can speak to some of the events we have coming up just a little bit. One is we do have after hours events happening pretty much every day during RSC, and there's going to be events happening around RSC as well as inside all the time. Soon to be announced, if not already. We will have a very, very fun thing going on once again Friday night, the 8th of August, after the main event hours are done. And then we are doing our celebrity guest dinner at Uncle Julio's right around the corner from the venue. And Uncle Julio's is going to be our official dinner partner of Rebel Scum Con. So make sure if you're attending Rebel Scum Con that you make your way over to Uncle Julio's, because there is going to be something special for all of our attendees to there. And it's some of the best Tex-Mex around. And it's just one of many other businesses that the city of Frisco has been good partners in bringing to us and helping work with us to make not only our event better, but the city and overall experience for those who are traveling in around us better as well.
Yeah, and for those who don't know about Frisco, it's like Yeehaw, California, basically, because we heard California is very expensive, so they just come live up there and they bring all the cool stuff with them. Obviously not Tex-Mex, but kind of everything else that's kind of around that's not Texas related. But yeah.
And there's lots of other like really just awesome and good restaurants surrounding our location too, for those of you who may not be feeling Tex-Mex one of the 3 nights you're out.
Where can they find more information on Rebel Scum Con?
Once again, just by going to the main website, rebelscumconventions.com. That's Rebel Scum Conventions with an S.com, or anywhere on social media. We are on every platform, even Discord.
Absolutely awesome. If you guys are interested in attending Rebel Scum Con in August, you can go to the links in the description below. Everything you will need to know about it will be there.
I want to say thanks to y'all. I mean, I'd never even thought that talking to you two would be a possibility.
Absolutely.
I'm playing the simp card a little bit. I'm gonna take it, take the glaze, whatever. No, I really do appreciate it. Appreciate everything you guys do for community, and
seriously.
I feel like I could only talk to Bobby and maybe like less than a handful of other people in a way of it's like, here's common sense, let's talk about it, kind of thing, with kind of some of the outrage, and it's just very refreshing. So my glaze is done, but thank you guys so much for everything you do.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we absolutely appreciate it. We thank you for coming, being willing to come on, for putting on this convention, because it's not something you have to do, but this builds a community. And when you go to these conventions, that's one of the most beautiful places in the world, because you don't get the noise, right?
Yeah, you don't.
In the Star Wars community, it's so easy to start to believe that the online negativity, the online hate, the cesspool that is Twitter, is the fan base, and it's not. It's truly not. There are more of us, and when you go to places like these cons, you get to just relax and just live in it and love Star Wars, and like it's such a wonderful feeling. So
I always say they won't spend a whole bunch of money to be a hater, right? They need to do it for free.
Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah, yeah. Wow, huh? Yeah.
They can't. They won't invest in that. they can't hate read books, and apparently, 3 episodes of Andor is probably too much for them to continue. Nonsense.
I'm
It's fantastic.
after the first 3 episodes, there was a particular scene that I was like, oh boy, they're gonna be loud about this one.
Thank you to Bobby and Dante for coming on and talking about Rebel Scum Con. Again, if you're interested in attending this August, you can find all relevant links in the description below.
Shout out to my guy Nemo for giving me the courage to even reach out. So appreciate him. I thought about it at the last second. Thanks, Nemo. Appreciate you, man. I hope you enjoy this episode. All right.
Shout out to Nemo. But that's it. On to the next one.
For Light and for Life.
We are all Rebel Scum Cons.
Yeah. And may Maul be with us all.
May the Force be with all of you.